Tension is simmering in the occupied Palestinian territories over Israel's closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Israeli forces have violently clashed with Palestinians protesting against the closure of Islam's third holiest site. Israeli forces clashed with Palestinian protesters at several locations in East Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and the occupied West Bank. Severe clashes erupted between Palestinian youth and Israeli forces at the Shafat checkpoint. Earlier, at least 20 people were injured after Israeli forces fired rubber bullets and tear gas and threw grenades at Palestinian worshippers in Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Clashes erupted after groups of Israeli settlers forced their way into the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israeli forces have set up barriers in front of all the compound's gates to prevent Palestinian worshippers from entering the mosque. Al-Aqsa has been the scene of clashes in recent weeks. Tel Aviv has arrested more than 100 Palestinians in the city over the past 10 days. Another 13 Palestinians have been detained on Wednesday.
A motorist has rammed into several pedestrians on a Jerusalem street and then got out of his vehicle to attack people with a metal bar, in what Israeli police say appears to be a deliberate Palestinian attack. On Wednesday, just hours after clashes erupted at the city's holiest site, at least 10 people were injured, 3 seriously, in the suspected terror attack. Shortly after the incident took place, the Israeli Internal Security Minister arrived at the site, where the remains of the damaged vehicle and debris were still scattered. It's seen a recent escalation in tensions heightened by the shooting of prominent right-wing Jewish activist Rabbi Yehuda Glick, who remains in a critical condition. The driver of the car was killed by officers at the scene.
الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. عليك أيوه يلا.
We do not want to hurt Arabs. We believe the temple belongs to everyone, on the condition the Arabs behave like humans and follow basic human rules like not to kill. If the Arabs try to hurt us or murder us, they will be banned from the Temple Mount forever.
We go to the mount in order to build the temple. We built the third temple with every prayer on the mount, with every utterance at the Temple Mount, with every step we take on the Temple Mount, even if the police shuts us up.
The Palestinian man deliberately rammed his minivan into a crowded tram platform. He then went on to attack civilians with an iron bar before he was neutralized by police.
The suspect himself hit 4 people. 500 meters up the road, he continued down the road. And at this point over here, there were security guards that approached him, and the suspect was shot and killed.
Investigators believe the attacker is Ibrahim al-Akri. He had recently been released from prison after serving time for security offenses. According to Israeli authorities, the Islamic group Hamas is responsible for the attack. Although the information could not be confirmed, its spokesperson welcomed the attack.
We praise this heroic operation, and we call for more such operations.
The incident is almost identical to one that occurred 2 weeks ago, when a Palestinian from East Jerusalem also crashed his car into a tram station, killing 2 people. Palestinian protesters and Israeli police have been clashing almost daily in the Old City in recent months. Much of the unrest is focused around the sacred Temple Mount Al-Aram al-Sharif compound, a holy site revered by both Jews and Muslims. In the latest incident on the hilltop this morning, dozens of masked Palestinians started throwing rocks at Israeli police, who responded with tear gas and stun grenades. The clashes also spread into the alleys of the Old City.
Palestinian militant group Hamas is praising a deadly attack in Jerusalem. A police officer was killed and 13 people were injured when a van crashed into a crowd. The driver then got out of the vehicle and began striking people with a metal bar. He was shot dead by police and later identified as a member of Hamas. And earlier there were violent clashes between Palestinians and Israeli police at the holy site Jews call the Temple Mount and Muslims refer to as the Noble Sanctuary. Well, the unrest has led Jordan to recall its ambassador to Israel and make a complaint to the UN Security Council. Well, for the latest, Erin McLaughlin joins me now from Jerusalem. What do we know about this attack?
Well, Becky, news surveillance footage shows the moment the suspect drove a van into a light rail station. You can actually see 3 border police lying on the ground. The driver would later go on to strike several other pedestrians as well as vehicles before stopping at an intersection, at which point Israeli police say the man got out of the vehicle waving an iron bar, threatening to attack other passerbys before being shot. Eyewitnesses saying they heard some 20 shots fired, shot and killed, later identified as a Palestinian from East Jerusalem by the name of Ibrahim al-Akri. Now, this is the latest attack in a wave of violence that Jerusalem has seen in recent months. Earlier this morning, there were clashes at the Noble Sanctuary or Temple Mount. I was there for some of the clashing. Police were trying to clear out an area around one of the gates. They were using stun grenades and rubber bullets, clearing out the area of worshipers. Israeli police saying that earlier the police were attacked by a group of Palestinian youths who had firecrackers and stones. And really, that kind of clashes has become relatively commonplace around the site and in Jerusalem. Tensions around the Noble Sanctuary or Temple Mount really peaking last week with the closure of the site for the first time in some 14 years. That following the attempted murder of far-right Rabbi Yehuda Glick. Glick had been hosting an event in Jerusalem calling for more Israeli Jews to be able to pray on the Temple Mount, effectively a change to the status quo. And there's great concern among senior Muslims in Jerusalem about a potential change to the status quo, about the increasing pace of visits from the Israeli far right to the site. And we're seeing this unrest in part, Becky, as a result of that.
Jordan says it is going to make a formal complaint with the UN Security Council over Israeli actions in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and its holy sites. The Jordanian Prime Minister has ordered the country's delegation at the UN to lodge an official complaint with the Security Council. Oman has also recalled its ambassador to Tel Aviv in protest of what it described as Israeli violations in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and holy sites. Reports say the decision follows Israel's increasing aggression in the Noble Sanctuary. The Noble Sanctuary is the Islamic description of the compound, housing Islam's third holiest site, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as well as the Dome of the Rock.
Another deadly attack in Jerusalem. A Palestinian driver ran over pedestrians, killing one person and wounding more than a dozen others. Police shot and killed the attacker. Also, more clashes between Palestinian protesters and Israeli troops near a disputed holy site. CCTV's Stephanie Freed joins us with an update. And Stephanie, what was it like today in Jerusalem with this attack and these other protests?
Well, Elaine, certainly it wasn't calm. As you noted, the end of the day had culminated with this person, this Palestinian man, driving his car into people waiting for the light rail train, similar to an attack of several weeks ago, just weeks ago. He got out, started beating people with a metal pole, and then ultimately he was killed by border police. But it didn't start there. It started with frustrations that were brewing from early morning when Jewish activists decided that they were going to go to Islam's third holiest site and they were going to make their presence known there. That was a source of frustration for the Muslims, who were, for the most part, barred. There was a limitation, many barred from worshiping at that same site. So bedlam broke out on the streets adjacent to the mosque. Again, it all started and was coming from the frustration that started with these activists who decided that they were going to go up to the holy site.
A Hamas-affiliated operative plowed into pedestrians waiting for Jerusalem's train. The second such attack within weeks. A 3-month-old was killed in the first. Wednesday's assailant was shot dead on the scene by Israeli border police. The incident follows a day of clashes at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque between stone-throwing Palestinians and armed Israeli security. Palestinians were up in arms over right-wing Jewish activist attempts to enter Islam's third holiest site.
The Muslims are trying to rule the world, and they're not interested in having anyone else pray to their God. They only want Muslims. We're not going to allow that. This is the Jewish state. This is the holiest site to the Jewish people, and we will pray here.
Furious over limited Muslim access to the mosque and ongoing punitive measures by Israel, Palestinians protested.
There was no doubt at the start of this day that the situation may get very volatile, certainly with the call of right-wing activists marking the assassination attempt of one of their brethren and trying to come up to Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is here on the side of me. That created a stir.
Throwing stones at Israeli forces, the response was stun grenade fire and, according to some reports, sponge-coated rubber bullets. At least one Palestinian was seriously wounded. The people here accuse Israel of breaching the laws by attempting to Judaize all of Jerusalem. Days ago, Israel's security authorities reported Jerusalem is calming down. That was clearly not the case on Wednesday.
And the very latest now here in Israel is the report that Jordan has pulled its ambassador out on the heels of this violence at Al-Aqsa Mosque. He returned to Amman this afternoon. Elaine?